Hello, beautiful, and welcome to the Moms Talk Sex podcast with me, Mor Yelvington, your host. I'm so excited to get deep and juicy today with the beautiful Gwyn Isaac. Hi, Gwen.
Hello, Moore. How are you?
I'm great. I'm so excited that you're here. I know we have such a good topic to talk about. So, why don't you share a little bit about who you are and what it is that you do in the world?
I'm Gwyn Isaacs. I am a sex coach and educator. I do a podcast as well called What Excites Us. And I've raised five kids, and the youngest is 14, and back to single parenting with him here in my Brooklyn apartment.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah.
Um, so how did you get to become a sex therapist? Like, what was the calling in there?
Well, to be clear, I'm a coach, not a therapist. I do not have the credentials. I don't have a master's degree, although honestly, I'm probably better than some. Um, um, so it was in, gosh, 2017. I was running an antique store about a half an hour away from my house. I had, as I mentioned, five kids at home. They were still pretty little at that point. And I was just exhausted. I had started the business, the antique business, with a partner, and then she had to drop out. And so it was all me. And then I was, coming home to make dinner, or well, not dinner. That was the one chore I didn't do, but coming home and parenting and running the store by myself. And I loved the shop, but it was too much. Um, so I basically had a breakdown and and tried to open my mind to what is out there and what I could do, and literally just randomly searching the internet and came across that this is a job, that people do this for money. And I've always been the person that people would go to talk about sex and sexuality. I mean, since I was a teenager. Um, because I'm very open-minded. I don't have a whole lot of judgments. People can tell me crazy stuff and I won't be like, what? Um, and so when I realized that I could do that, I signed up for a certification, like a pretty intense credentialing program, and started doing it and hung my shingle at the end of 2017.
Wow, that is incredible. So, what can moms come to you with? Like, how does somebody know that they need a sex coach? Like, how does that come up?
Well, for a lot of times, for a lot of women, I think that there's just this sort of general feeling of malaise, or not feeling satisfied, and not really even able to pinpoint where the problem is. I think that, I mean, I know for a fact for myself, and I know other women who have just found themselves in a place where they're not feeling a lot of pleasure in general anymore. And sex is one avenue to re-find your pleasure. And I find that it helps in all aspects of your life. If you're feeling good in your body, then you're more likely to feel good in other parts of your life.
Yes, this is so true. So, do you feel like the women that come to you, they are looking to obviously, well, maybe not obviously, but they're looking to connect more to themselves and their bodies? Or is it more about having that orgasmic exposure in their marriage?
It's all of that and so much more. I work with a range of different people, from people who grew up in purity culture, who have never been really connected because they were shut down as children, and now suddenly they're married, and they find that it's not just a light switch that you can turn on.
Right.
To people who have been in long-term relationships and are just not finding the joy anymore, to people who want to explore opening up their relationships, or kink, or other alternative ways of playing in the bedroom. It's there's a huge variety of sexual expressions out there, and I am comfortable working with a lot of them.
I love that. So, what is like three tools or tips that you can give women that are maybe married now for 15, 20 years and they have children and they're kind of maybe tired, it's a long relationship. How can they spice it up a little bit? What can they do different to add a little more spice?
Well, I think the first thing is to really prioritize that, is to, and that is something it's so easy to overlook. We all get so busy, we're exhausted at the end of the day. What do you mean I have to prioritize myself? Yes, you do. You really, really do. Um, I really love my favorite homework assignment is to have people take themselves out on a date and really experience what it is that they enjoy, because I think that we just forget
Yeah.
over time. And that doesn't have to be, I mean, it can be a full evening, go to a fancy movie, or I mean, a fancy dinner and a movie and all of the things up to a sensual bath and self-pleasure. But it could also just be prioritize half an hour once a week, if that's all the time that you can, and schedule it in your calendar so that you actually pay attention to your own body and what you want. And then once you have a better handle on that, you can take that to your partner and talk it through, communicate what it is that you find that you would like more of, or that you're not receiving at all. And then the last thing, and it's so pithy, but it's true, but almost every relationship can benefit from more communication or more lube, or both.
I love that. So, is there any fun sex tips? Let's go a little bit like I want to let's say, I want to spice it up in my bedroom. What is something that I could do that could be fun even if I do it tonight? Like let's go out there.
Okay. Something that I really enjoy are those, um, used to be able to just buy them at adult stores, but now you can even get an app where it's a randomizer and it's like three different dice or something, and it's do an action to a body part in a place. I find that ridiculously fun.
I
'Cause
love that. I actually seen that. So it's on an app now? That's
yeah,
hilarious.
there are apps for them, because I used to send people to go to Adam and Eve or whatever, but now I can't remember any of the apps off the top of my head, but I know that you can find it. It's just basically a sex randomizer would be what I would search. Um, yeah, that would be the most fun. Another thing would be to reverse whatever roles that you find yourselves in.
Okay.
So
For
whether you're talking,
example.
yeah, if you I don't like the word rut because it has all these implications of like something bad, but we tend to find ourselves doing the same things over and over and over again.
Mhm.
And if it's too much of a stretch to try something completely different, like using a scarf to bind your hands or something like that, that would be completely different for a lot of people. Then just switch the roles. So if you're usually on top, make him be usually on top. If you usually are doing it, doggy style, try missionary. Like, just really basic, tiny steps. And sometimes that's enough to really jog us out of the familiar.
I like that. And so you mentioned people tying a scarf around your hands, and you said that's not very familiar to a lot of people. So maybe you can go a little bit on that. Like, what would that look like for somebody that maybe wants to try it out?
Go slow. That would be the first thing. Communicate, communicate, communicate. Um, you really want to be clear and have, this has made it into regular, I saw it on The Simpsons even. You want to have a safe word. Right? But you want to be able to be like, okay, something is really not right and we need to stop right now. And have it be able to say that and be comfortable saying it, and not have any like fallback or negativity from your partner, and just be able to stop and talk about what went wrong. Like, sometimes if you're talking about using a scarf to bind your hands, sometimes it can be too tight, right?
Okay.
And you need to just be able to wiggle it a little bit more. Um, or you can actually pinch a nerve if you get things too tight, too long. And that could be, I mean, it doesn't usually happen with a scarf, but it could be dangerous. Um, Basic things like that a little bit of impact. I know a lot of people enjoy a light spanking here and there. Maybe make it a little rougher. Maybe see how much you want to go with, or turn it into a role playing situation. You know, pretend you're a naughty schoolgirl. Um, these are all fun. There's so much out there, but yeah,
Right.
that's just off the tip of my head.
And okay, and so do you have any recommendations for partners that have been married for a long time and maybe there's kids in the house and so it's hard to find the actual time to have sex? Like what is something that they can do in order to create that environment where they can even be intimate with each other?
Seriously, prioritize yourselves. Get a babysitter. Get grandma to take the kids, and while the kids are gone, instead of cleaning the house, put a red light bulb in, or get one of those fun LED color changing light bulbs, and just make it important that you have that time to connect to each other. If your kids are little, or if you're not in a situation where you can have a babysitter, I know lots of families like that. Um, Maybe making a gag, or again, a scarf as a um what's the word I'm
A
looking for?
mouth cover, like a mouth
A
cover.
mouth cover. Thank you. Like that's not the word, but you know what I'm saying.
Yeah.
You know, maybe make that into some fun so you can be quiet, and then it feels a little taboo. And when you bring the taboo in, it always feels a little naughty, and that's super fun. Um, yeah, but it's really, you really have to prioritize it, and it's so hard because it's just exhausting. But at least once a month, you and your partner need to take time to be together
Yeah, I agree.
intimately.
Intimately, I agree. And what I noticed, a lot of people that, a lot of women that come to me with low libido, a lot of times it's because of some trauma that they experienced in their past. And so I realized a lot of times that before we even talk about having sex, there's so much that needs to be cleared from the past that's preventing you from being present in the future. And so I feel like it's so important to really find out what it is that's really blocking you from being connected to your body and being present in your body. Because if you can't be connected and present, it's going to be really hard to be that with somebody else. Do you find it that men or women have a harder time connecting to their body?
Oh, I think women do, absolutely. I mean, yes, as a generalization, hands down, women have much more trouble. I mean, we are told not to. If we were socialized as girls, even if our parents were free flowing hippies, the rest of society tells us to have shame around our body, whether we're too big or too small or too slutty or not slutty enough. There's no getting out of it in this culture. Um, and I want to go back just a little bit and be clear that while intimacy usually means sex, in cases where there's a lot of trauma and you're having a lot of trouble connecting with your body, intimacy can just be having a quiet meal together and not looking at our phones, actually spending time being intimate together. And there are a lot of couples who really struggle with that too. And so, yeah, if you're having trouble connecting physically, I would go back and start trying to connect intimately without physicality, or maybe with just like, holding hands or stroking each other's arms and legs, like not having it be about intercourse.
Yeah, I love that because you're right. I feel like in this day and age, it's hard to stay connected. You really have to make it a priority. It's so much easier to get sucked into your phone, to get sucked into TV, and just completely not realize what you're missing. And in my back of my head, it's always like, I don't want to wake up at 50 when my kids are out of the house or whatever, and, you know, not even know the person next to me, right? Which I feel like can happen a lot to a lot of people. And
It
so
does.
that's the goal here is to really find those ways to connect, 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 because it's not just you connecting with your partner, but also with yourself.
Yeah. And that's why I tell people to put it on the calendar,
Mhm.
because we're less likely to ignore it if it's on the calendar.
That's so true. And I've interviewed so many people on my podcast, and I would say every person says. That's the number one thing. You put it on your calendar. You have to put it on the calendar. You have to prioritize it. And so if we're not emphasizing enough, put it on your calendar.
Underline several exclamation points.
Yes,
Yeah,
choose you time. Definitely. I know I do every day, at least for 30 minutes to an hour. It's my time for me.
that's
And
wonderful.
everybody, and if I have to wake up at 5 in the morning to do it, I will. Or if I have to, have it in the afternoon, I will. I'm just find a way to do it. So I encourage you to. So if anybody wants to find you and work with you, where can they do that?
Um, the easiest way to find me is to go to whatexcitesus.com or subscribe to What Excites Us on your favorite pod player. My coaching site right now is called Earthly Desire, just one desire. I don't know why I didn't think that through, but I'm working on migrating it. So depending on when this comes out, it might all be under What Excites Us, but they're all connected. You can find me. And I am Sex Fairy Gwyn on Instagram and TikTok and Facebook.
I love that. You do look like a sex fairy. That's
Thank you.
perfect. Well, thank you so much for being here with me today. This was such a great conversation. I really appreciate it. And you guys, you should reach out and see what Gwyn can offer you in your sex life. Thank you for tuning in, and I hope you tune in again next week for more of the Mom Talk Sex podcast. We'll see you next week.